Melty Molten Galaxy is an excellent final grand galaxy. I won't sugarcoat it. I think Mario Galaxy has inarguably the best final stages of the first three 3D Mario titles. As much as I enjoyed Rainbow Ride, and especially Tick-Tock Clock, they just didn't feel like final stages in a Mario game, primarily because they lacked the theming. Heck, they even lacked the music. And while Bowser in the Sky will always be iconic to me, it definitely has early transition to 3D vibes. And Pianta Village, it had some challenge to it, and I know many will disagree with me here, but I did not feel like that was worthy of being a final level in a game. And Corona Mountain, while it had the aesthetics, outside of the abysmal control of the boat as you were trying to grab blue coins, didn't really offer much more than a little bit of platforming. And I realize that this is pretty subjective, but for me it's pretty clear that Mario Galaxy pays a lot more respect to the end of the game than those two titles did. And I don't think it's only because of the lava and the flame aesthetics, although that does help drastically. The stars here are pretty good. The missions are fun, the challenge is respectable, the spectacles are memorable, and all in all, for me, it just makes for a very fun final stage to run through to make it towards Bowser. The first star is the sinking lava spire. And right off the bat, you'll notice this is one of those large open linear paths. It's not a sandbox, nor is it a segmented planetoid to planetoid challenge. It's right in that sweet spot where it would give you the type of level that would theoretically fit into Mario 3D World, but with the control, build, and physics of a proper 3D Mario title. Not that 3D World isn't proper, but we can get to that in a later date. As you make it through the opening area, you have to avoid enemies that are trying to burn you, lava bursting out of the ground trying to burn you, and sinking platforms into the lava that are trying to burn you. As you go through, there are some challenges that require wall jumping, but you also have to be careful not to get burned by the geysers. At the end of all of that, you get to take a launch star, and there's a pretty nice spectacle of the volcano in the background as you make it to the next segment. When you get there, you might notice a hungry Luma. This is the hidden star. I ended up grabbing it first because I had enough star bits, so we're just gonna cheat a little bit and switch over to this star real quick. It's a sphere lava-filled planetoid, with the lava levels both rising and lowering. It's got an okay difficulty, not terrible, but also not super easy, but for me it's pretty fun. You basically gotta get around and collect the 5 silver stars to make the regular star come out so you can grab it. All things considered, it's a pretty decent star, but I would expect a little bit more for the final stage in the game. Okay, back to the first star. If you don't go for the Hungry Luma, there are some pool stars that you get to go through. You're swinging through these burning balls of fire, and also avoiding the fire projectiles that they're spitting out. You actually do have to be pretty careful here and be cognizant of your surroundings. There's something pretty cool that happens after this moment though. A couple things I like actually. The first thing is when you take the launch star, you end up swinging over and landing on a different launch star. So the game tricks you because you're meant to react pretty quickly and do another spin again at that second launch star. It seems simple enough, but I feel like most players wouldn't be paying attention and would fall through and get their butt burned. But for me, the really cool part is after you go through that launch star. And it's just the spectacle here. Flying over the lava with the fire flying overhead. It's just such an enjoyable view and really makes you appreciate not only the physics of this game, but the gravity of the situation. You appreciate the climax. And you're still not at the end of the level. There are these half-submerged spheres that you have to run around to collect all the pieces of the launch star to move on to the next section. And then you finally make it to the spire that you're meant to climb while the lava's moving up. Or I guess it's technically while the spire is sinking. Look, I don't have too much to say about this. It is a platforming challenge, and it is a good platforming challenge because it requires you to be on your toes as fast as you can. And I know this because on the first time, I think I took it a little bit too easy and I lost a life. And on the second time, I tried to take a shortcut and I lost another life. But on the third time, I was paying a lot more attention and I got to the star. And moving straight into the next star, it's through the meteor storm. You start in the same area, but there are a ton of meteors flying down. You'll notice the 2 torches, but there is no fire flower in sight. And that's because you have to lure the flame enemies into lighting up the torches so you can move on to the next section. You get this fun polygon that you gotta run around while avoiding all the thwomps. And now the next area, you just gotta carefully maneuver around while collecting the pieces of the launch star. At this point, I had 1 hit point remaining, but luckily there was a mushroom there waiting for me to collect. And even then, I got hit a few more times by the time I was able to get the final piece of the launch star. Honestly, this whole portion was a lot more difficult than it looked. And likewise with this next area where you have to lure the bullet bill to crack open the cage. And to close it off, they put you on a ball rolling challenge. Now, seeing as how I have not been going over the small galaxies, I've yet to have a discussion on this gimmick as well as some of the other gimmicks that involve motion controls. If you've been watching this channel long enough, you probably know that I am fairly okay with motion controls. I don't think they ruin a game, and I don't think that they're so terrible that you have to find a way to avoid them. I'm going to withhold my discussion on this gimmick specifically, because over the next 2 segments I'd like to go over all of the smaller galaxies, and I just feel like the discussion would fit better over there. But as far as this one is concerned, I will say this does feel like the final version of that challenge. It's very climactic. Take everything you learned and put it into the most difficult version of it yet. You will probably fall off a whole bunch of times until you get used to it, but at least you can enjoy the spectacle. Once again, this stage does an excellent job showing you that you're at the end game, and the more it does so, the more I appreciate it. And I especially appreciate accomplishing this task and receiving my star. Which takes us to the 3rd star, a fight against the fiery Dino Piranha. Basically, a flame version of the Dino Piranha we beat in the 1st level, which... okay, fine, I love it. 1st star of the 1st level, and the final star of the last level, not including the Comet Star, obviously. It's a nice little callback to the beginning of the game, but you still do have to make it towards the boss fight. The opening area starts off just a little bit more challenging. This time you're meant to move to the right where you can undergo a platforming challenge to move upwards. When you make it to these spheres, instead of having to collect all of the pieces of the launch star, you gotta defeat all these fire enemies, bearing in mind that they require 2 hits, and if they roll into the lava, they can come back to life. But once you get the launch star, you get to go over to the next section, and now the spheres are rolling, there's fire being shot at you, there are plenty of lava pools to fall into, and then if you make it through that, you get to this wheel where you just gotta jump platform to platform, all the while trying to collect the pieces of the launch star, and just carefully platforming your way along. And it continues on in the next section. It doesn't slow down. Lava, sinking platforms, launch stars, all of it. Luckily, I passed by one of those Lumas and bought myself more health, but honestly, I didn't really need it. The boss fight more or less feels the exact same, except you have to wait for the piranha to unignite before you attack it, and you gotta avoid the fireballs that it's spitting at you. It's definitely more challenging than the first one, but the first one is really easy, so this one is just okay. And finally, the Comet Star is a Daredevil run. Thankfully, they didn't just make me repeat the boss fight. It's the 1st star all over again. Most of the Daredevil comets are boss fights. I think they make good for boss fights because you'd be surprised how many times you would take a single hit. But the fact that this one is not a single boss fight, you're going through an entire stage. A stage filled with flames that can hit you at any moment in time, basically unexpectedly, and you don't get a single checkpoint. This is my kind of comet. I feel like a lot of people have got to hate this one, because this feels like the kind of challenge you would get in a 90s platformer, where you have to make a perfect run in essence, and not get hit a single time. And every time you do take a hit, you gotta start over from the beginning and do it all again. And in doing so, you get better at mastering that perfect run, so that by the time you've actually accomplished the entire stage, you've dealt with the opening challenges a good 10 or 15 times. Which I know for many people sounds absolutely awful, but I am all for it. And not least because this is basically the last star of the game before you get to Bowser. It took them a while to get here, but they finally made it to a challenge that really knocked me on my butt for a good 20 minutes. And unlike the secret area challenges in Mario Sunshine, I felt like the star was actually fair. Nothing about it felt broken, not even my will to succeed. A great final star for the final stage in the game. But this is not the conclusion. We still have to go through all the small galaxies and then return back here to get all the purple coins. There are a handful of talking points that I would like to bring up in a later segment. That might be with the purple coins or might be in the actual conclusion of the entire series. But I think for now I can at least rank all of the stages. And honestly, it's very easy to rank because I feel like they just got better as I went along, minus a few exceptions. Starting from the bottom, it goes Good Egg Galaxy, Space Junk Galaxy, Battle Rock Galaxy, Beach Bowl Galaxy, and Honey Hive Galaxy. Those are probably their own tier. Next up would be Gusty Garden Galaxy, and I like Ghostly Galaxy a little bit more than that one. After that, I think it would be Deep Dark Galaxy, followed by Gold Leaf Galaxy, and the last few are hard to rank because they are probably my favorite ones. It would probably go Dreadnought Galaxy, Dusty Dune Galaxy, Melty Molten Galaxy, and honestly, you can probably do a coin flip between Freeze Flame and Toy Time. I'm going to stick with Freeze Flame at number 1 because I've always liked that one. Like, even when I hadn't played this game in over 10 years, I could still remember Freeze Flame Galaxy. Plus, I just love the ice skating challenges. I think the only one I didn't mention yet was Sea Slide Galaxy, and that's because that one is dead last. So I guess it's not quite in the exact level 1 to 15 order that I thought it would be in, but I think as a general rule, I just kept enjoying the game more as it went on. And obviously, if you've been following along all this time, it's because the early levels were just way too easy. From Good Egg to Gusty Garden, I was beginning to wonder if I was realizing that I didn't like the game. And that is primarily because of how easy it was. Remember, for me, the whole wonder of the spectacle and the journey and the aesthetics have all kind of worn off by now. I've played this game enough. I was looking for the joy of the challenge. And I'll accept that that's completely subjective, and I totally understand that many of you just enjoy exploring these levels. But like I said from before, going from Sunshine to Galaxy just felt like the worst whiplash when it comes to the difficulty. Thankfully, that all started to subside by the time I made it to Freeze Flame, and it was pretty well out of the way by the time I got to Melty Molten Galaxy. All in all, it's been a very fun adventure to not only play through these levels, but to go through them analytically. But we will revisit them when we go through the purple coins. And perhaps at that point we can have a better discussion at the more intricate details of the stages. However, there are a lot of small galaxies to go through. 2 segments worth, in fact. So meet me back in the beginning of the game and let's go through all of them.